item. And one, just announce, I guess, officially that we have our controller, Ms. Betty Yee, with us.
Good afternoon. The next item is K3C, fiscal year 2021 to 22, private railroad car tax rate. Report on the tax rate applicable to the 2021-22 private railroad car tax assessment. Contribution disclosure forms are not required pursuant to Government Code Section 15626. This is a constitutional function. This matter will be presented by Mr. McCool.
Good afternoon, Chairman Vasquez and members of the board. I'm Jack McCool, Chief of the State Assessed Properties Division. I'm here today to report on this year's private railroad car tax rate as calculated by board staff. Under current law, the rate is to be equal to the average rate of general property taxation from the previous year. Last year's private railroad car tax rate was 1.154%. Staff compiled the data for the fiscal year 2020-2021 and determined that the average rate of taxation throughout the state was 1.156%. As a result, staff recommended a rate of 1.156% for the 2021 private railroad car tax rate, which was approved by the board's executive director. That concludes the report on the 2021 private railroad car tax rate. Thank you.
Thank you. Members, do we have any questions? I see Vice Chair Schaefer. Yes, go ahead.
Mr. McCool, could I draw your attention to page 1 of 10 of the recommendations for assessment? I'm talking about company number 0557, Halliburton Energy Services.
Mr. Vice Chair Schaefer, that is the next item on the agenda.
Oh, okay, then I'll withdraw my comment. Thank you.
Is there any other comments or questions about this item? Seeing and hearing none. Do we need to vote on this one, or do we have to move on? Can we move on to the next one?
Mr. Chairman, this is just a report for informational purposes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Continue then.
The next item is K3D, adoption of the 2021 private railroad car roll. Staff recommendation for the lien date of 2021 assessment of private railroad cars under the provisions of the private railroad car tax law. Contribution disclosure forms are not required pursuant to Government Code Section 15626. This is a constitutional function. This matter will be presented by Mr. McCool.
Hello, once again, Chairman Vasquez and members of the board. I'm here today to present for your consideration and adoption the 2021 private railroad car assessment roll. Before you, for your consideration, is a report entitled the 2021 Recommendation for Assessment of Private Railroad Cars. This report represents staff's recommendation for the lien date 2021 assessment of private railroad cars under the provisions of the private railroad car tax law. This year's total recommended assessed value is just over $806 million. Upon adoption of staff's recommendation, State Assessed Properties Division staff will prepare the 2021 private railroad car tax bills and send to the appropriate taxpayers by the required statutory date of October 15th. The tax will become due by December 10th, and the tax collected is deposited into the state's general fund. I ask for your adoption of the roll, and I am available if there are any questions. Thank you.
Okay, Vice Chair Schaefer, now you can weigh in on this one.
Mr. McCool, I draw your attention to page 1 of 10 of the recommendation for assessment of private railroad cars. Do you have that?
I do, sir.
Number 557, Halliburton Energy Service Incorporated, shows clearly an assessed value of $161,312. That's not a bill to be paid, that's an assessed valuation. But then you take your 10% late filing penalty, which is exactly 10% of $161,312. You add that, and the two figures come out 177,443. Again, we're talking about assessed values, not a check to be written to anybody. I have never seen a late filing penalty be in form of assessed valuation. It's always been 10% more dollars on a check you were gonna write. Here, we're adding a penalty in the valuation. So like we're gonna take the value of the railroad cars because you've been you've erred in some with a late filing. We're gonna punish you by raising the value of your assessed value by 10%. Do we raise that for a year, eternally? And what does that have to do with writing a check to the state of California? I'm just having problems with apples and oranges. Maybe you could help me with this.
To answer your question, Vice Chair Schaefer, the 10% penalty for late filing is by statute, and the statute does specify it's a 10% penalty of the assessed value.
So the assessed value jumps 10%. We're not talking about anybody writing a check.
Correct. So the 10% late penalty will be added to the original assessed value, and that will be the amount that we apply the recently adopted tax rate to arrive at the amount of tax due.
Okay, I did not know that late filing fees could be in the form of increasing the valuation instead of writing a bigger check. Maybe I stand corrected. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Any other comments or questions? Controller Betty, I think you're muted. It sounded like
Yeah.
you're saying something.
Yeah, I did have a question if I could.
Sure, go ahead.
For Mr. McCool, I was just looking at the overall assessed value for the past several years, and it's quite a drop for 2021. Is this just kind of the general economic condition under which these private railroad companies are operating, or is there something more going on with the industry? I don't recall.
I believe for this.
Yeah.
Sorry.
That's all right. Go ahead.
I was just going to respond that I believe the decrease in this year is largely attributed to the less amount of railroad car freight that entered California during 2021, in large part due to COVID-19 conditions. So part of the component for calculating the assessed value is the number of equivalent car days where these railroad cars are physically present in California. Last year, there was approximately 33,000 car days for private railroad cars. This year, the number was down to 30,000. So just looking at the last 5 years, 2019 with 34,000, 2020 with 33,000, and this most recent years, a drop to 30,000. So it's one of the main components in the assessment. And I think, it's an open question whether that car volume will increase in the coming year, but from our understanding, the main driver of this drop in value was due to COVID-19.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Very welcome.
Any other comments or questions from any of the folks? Seeing and hearing none. Do we have any written comments on this, Ms. Taylor?
We do not.
Can we check with AT&T if there's anybody on the line that wants to speak on this?
Yes, AT&T moderator, can you let us know if there is anyone who wants to make a public comment on this matter?
Certainly. If you'd like to make a comment, please press 10 at this time. And there are no comments at this point.
Thank you. Members, this item is now before us.
Mr. Chairman, I'll move to adopt the staff recommendation.
It's been moved by Controller, and
Second.
it's been seconded by our Vice Chair Schaefer. Seeing no other hands or comments, Ms. Taylor, if you can please call the roll.
Chairman Vasquez,
Aye.
Vice Chair Schaefer,
Aye.
Member Gaines,
Aye.
Member Cohen,
Aye.
Controller Yi.
Aye.
So that's unanimous. Thank you. And with that, Ms. Taylor, if you'd please move on to our next item.
The next item is K3E, adoption of the 2021 state assessed property roll. Staff recommendation on the allocations of the unitary values adopted by the board in May 2021, plus adjustments based on prior board action and staff recommended non-unitary values. Contribution disclosure forms are not required pursuant to Government Code Section 15626. This is a constitutional function. This matter will be presented by Mr. McCool.
Hello, once again, Chairman Vasquez and members of the board. I am here to present for your consideration and adoption the 2021 state assessed property roll. Before you, for your consideration, is a report entitled the 2021 Recommendation for Assessment of State Assessed Property. This recommendation reflects the unitary values adopted by the board on May 25th, 2021, along with the adjustments to the roll based on prior board actions, as well as staff recommended non-unitary values. This year's state assessed roll totals approximately $123 billion of assessed value. Upon adoption of these recommendations, State Assessed Properties Division staff will transmit the allocated assessments to the 58 counties so that the counties may generate tax bills and collect the property tax. I ask for your adoption of the roll, and I am available if there are any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Members, do we have any comments or questions of Mr. McCool?
Vice
Yes,
Chair Schaefer.
Vice Chair Schaefer, go ahead.
Mr. McCool, I notice there's about a $3,500,000,000 increase, notwithstanding the economic disruption that we've all suffered. I think that speaks well for the financial condition of our state. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no other hands or comments on this one, Ms. Taylor, do we have any written comments on this item?
We do not have any written comments on this item.
Thank you. And before we go to AT&T, I see a hand from Member Gaines. Member Gaines, go ahead.
Yes, thank you very much. Due to a financial interest, I will not be participating with respect to Pacific Corp, item number 106, Sierra Pacific Power, item number 146, Kern River Gas Transmission Company, number 188, and BNSF Railroad Company, number 804.
Thank you.
Great.
With that, Ms. Taylor, if you would please go to AT&T and see if there's anybody on the line.
AT&T moderator, can you let us know if there is anyone who wants to make a public comment on this matter?
And if you wish to ask a question or comment, please press 1 then 0 at this time. And we have no one in queue at this time.
Thank you. Members, do we have any other comments or questions? If not, I'd like to entertain a motion to adopt the staff's recommendation.
So moved.
It's been moved by Member Cohen.
I
Second.
second by Vice Chair.
Vice Chair Schaefer, second. Okay. With that, Ms. Taylor, if you please call the roll.
Chairman Vasquez,
Aye.
Vice Chair Schaefer,
Aye.
Member Gaines, not participating. Member Cohen,
Yeah.
Aye.
Controller Yi.
Aye.
So that's unanimous of those that are able to participate. And with that, Ms. Taylor, if you'd please call the next item.
Certainly. Chairman Vasquez, I'd like to note that Mr. Ginsburg is available on the co-host line, and he would like to make a comment.
Oh, yes, I know. We gave him a resolution earlier today. Sure, if he's available, we'll give him an opportunity right now before we start the next item, before our controller leaves. Go ahead.
This is David Ginsburg. Can you all hear me?
Yes, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Chairman Vasquez and controller and the member and the entire board. I'll be very brief. I was traveling last week, as what you're supposed to do when you're quote unquote retired, with my son in Seattle, and so I was I got this note this morning, and I apologize I was not on this morning. But boy, what a beautiful and just kind resolution. Thank you so much. It has been my profound privilege to have worked with the professionals, and I count all of you amongst that category in the property tax world. From Brad Sherman and Dean Andall to the current board, I have seen lots of variations, and I'd say you are living up to and doing yeoman's work. In fact, I'd say it's doing thankless work, as are the rest of you have an amazing staff, and I think my only advice would be lean on those assessors. They're there. They want to help you be successful along with your staff. And my only thing is I obviously want to thank my own former boss, Larry Stone, who's gave me the confidence to try to be of assistance in the property tax world. And I think taxpayers just don't know how lucky they are to have all of you working so hard for them. And my retirement ends on August 1 when I become the executive director of Temple Bethel in sunny Aptos, California. So if you ever make your way to Santa Cruz County, I encourage you to stop by or give me a call. I hope you all have my cell phone. I mean that seriously. I'm not moving, by the way. It's only 35-minute drive from San Jose. But I just want to again express my deepest appreciation to everyone, and particularly to the various. There's been a number of property tax directors and executive directors, and I will tell you, you have right now some of the finest staff working for you, and Brenda and the team that she has assembled. And I just want to say thank you. And with that, I will be quiet because I know you have a full agenda, and I don't want to take away from the business at hand. But thank you so much. I was so kind of you to do a resolution on my behalf.
Thank you. Wish you all the best. And I know I speak for all the members that we really appreciated your time and energy, because you went on above and beyond the call of duty, and I really appreciate it.
Thank you. And it's a labor of love like it is for the rest of the people. And I know pretty much everybody on this call, the staff and the board members who work, are all going above and beyond. And the board member staff, the countless hours they put into this, trying to do what's right, what they believe is the best thing for the public's interest. Thank you.
Thank you. With that, Ms. Taylor, well, I guess, Ms. Controller, you're welcome to stay, but I know you're probably on a real tight schedule. So if you're departing, thank you for stopping in and joining us, and hope to see you soon again.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Really appreciate the accommodation. Take care,
Not
everyone.
a problem. Ms. Taylor, if you would call the next item.
The next item is K4A, Legislative Research and Statistics Division Chief's Report. Update on the legislative issues, update on administrative and program-related legislative bills impacting the BOE, and K4B, update on legislation related to the implementation of Proposition 19. This matter will be presented by Ms. Renati.
Good afternoon, members. This is Lisa Renati, Chief Deputy Director. Today, I've provided you with a written report which includes a list of legislation that impacts the Board of Equalization. As a reminder, the legislature broke for summer recess on July 16th and will reconvene on August 16th. The three board-sponsored legislative proposals approved by the board at the December 2020 and February 2021 board meetings are included in Senate Bill 825. To briefly recap, Senate Bill 825 amends Revenue and Taxation Code Section 401.10 to extend the sunset date for evaluation of intercounty pipeline rights of way, amends Revenue and Taxation Code Section 1752.2 related to multi-jurisdictional assessment appeals boards, and amends Revenue and Taxation Code 214.02 to extend the sunset date of the welfare exemption for land conservancies and land trusts. This bill was amended on June 28th with no changes to the board's proposed items. The current status of this bill is with the Assembly Appropriations Committee. Next, members, as regards active legislation related to the implementation of Prop 19, we continue to track Senate Bill 539 and Assembly Constitutional Amendment 9. Senate Bill 539, introduced by Senator Hertzberg and Senators Allen and McGuire as principal co-authors, is a property taxation bill regarding intergenerational transfers of real property and base year value transfers. This bill was amended in the Assembly on July 13th, and a summary of the amendments are included in BOE's recently issued amended analysis. The amendments address several areas of the intergenerational transfer provisions, continue to provide the BOE the authority for emergency rulemaking, and attempts to address the definition of what constitutes a family farm. In addition, the amendment broadens the scope of the measure to include victims of wildfires and natural disasters. This bill is currently with the Assembly Appropriations Committee. Next is ACA 9, introduced by Assemblymember Kiley. As you recall, this measure seeks to repeal several provisions of Prop 19 regarding intergenerational base year transfer exemptions and instead reinstate the prior rule. The measure would apply retroactively to all affected purchases or transfers occurring on or after February 16, 2021. Currently, ACA 9 is awaiting referral to a committee in the Assembly. Members, this concludes my report. I'm available to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Members, do we have any questions? Ms. Renati? If not, this is all informational, I believe, right? We don't think we have to take a motion on this.
That's correct, Chairman.
Ms. Taylor, do we have any written comments on this?
We do not.
Do you want to check with AT&T to see if there's anybody on the line?
Sure. AT&T moderator, can you let us know if there is anyone who would like to make a public comment on this item?
And if you would like to make a comment, please press 1 then 0 at this time. And we have no one in the queue at this time.
Thank you. With that, Ms. Taylor, will you please call the next item?
Yes, the next item is K5, Taxpayers' Rights Advocate Office's report, an update on the activities of the Taxpayers' Rights Advocate Office. This matter will be presented by Ms. Thompson.
Good afternoon, Chair Vasquez and honorable board members. I'm Lisa Thompson, Chief of the Taxpayer Rights Advocate Office. I'm here to provide you with an update on the activities of the Taxpayer Rights Advocate Office to keep you informed. First, I would like to update you on the preparation for the upcoming Taxpayer Bill of Rights hearing that will be held on August 24th, 2021 at the board meeting. The Taxpayer Rights Advocate Office worked with the Communications Officer, Peter Kim, to prepare our first public service announcement to advise taxpayers and other parties about the upcoming Bill of Rights hearing. We worked with the California Department of Tax and Fee Administration's media productions team on the public service announcement, and they did an excellent job. They were great to work with, and I would like to express my appreciation to them for all of their hard work. The public service announcement aired before the board meeting and airs during all of the long breaks. We are also adding a link onto our website for this public service announcement. Additionally, I will be reaching out directly to taxpayer organizations asking if they could notify their members of the TRA Bill of Rights hearing. I will be contacting the following 6 taxpayer organizations: CalTax, Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association, Spidell Publishing, CalChamber, California Society of CPAs, and California Enrolled Agents. Next, I will be sharing some statistics on cases that were completed by the Taxpayer Rights Advocate Office last month, and also some insight on the types of cases. In June 2021, we completed work on 22 cases. 3 were in Board Member Gaines's district, 12 in Board Member Cohen's district, 5 in Board Member Vasquez's district, and 2 in Board Member Schaefer's district. Of the 22 completed cases, 10 were in the administrative category and 12 were in the valuation category. The administrative category includes topics such as creating and mailing tax bills, refunds, penalty cancellation, defaulted taxes, access to data, special assessments, or direct levies on the property tax bills. The valuation category includes topics such as change in ownership, declines in value, appraisal methodology, exclusions, exemptions, new construction, actual enrollment of values, general property taxation, and assessment appeals. With respect to the administrative category, 3 cases involved delinquent or defaulted taxes for not paying their property tax bill for multiple years. 5 cases involved special assessments. 1 case involved the address used to mail the tax bill, and then 1 case involved refunds. The TRA office assisted the taxpayers by providing information about special assessment charges billed on the property tax bill, payment plan options for delinquent taxes, and provisions about tax sales. The Taxpayer Rights Advocate Office helped the taxpayer understand what address the taxpayer uses to mail the tax bill and how to update their mailing address with the assessor's office. The TRA office also coordinated with the tax collector's office concerning a refund where the taxpayer made an overpayment because the previous payment had not been recognized by the tax collector's office because it was unknown what the payment applied to, since the taxpayer had not submitted a copy of any payment stubs or identified the parcel numbers for the multi-parcel check. So, with respect to the valuation category and its 12 cases in total, 1 addressed change in ownership in the area of supplemental assessments, and the TRA office assisted the taxpayer by providing information about changes in ownership and when a property is subject to reappraisal due to someone being removed or added onto title. We explained the statutory provisions to reappraise property as to the percentage of interest transferred and proration of taxes for purpose of the supplemental assessment. 4 cases addressed exclusions from reassessments and exemptions, of which 2 pertain to the base year value transfer exclusion for persons age 55 and over, and 2 pertain to the welfare exemption, with the remaining 1 pertaining to the disabled veterans exemption. The TRA office helped the taxpayers by explaining the exclusion requirements as to the time frame in which the purchase of the replacement must be made in order to qualify for the base year value transfer. Additionally, we explained to one taxpayer that they could still qualify for a base year value transfer under Proposition 19 if they chose to sell the replacement home that they intended to use that was purchased prior to April 1st, 2021, and then buy another as long as that purchase of the replacement home was made within 2 years of the sale of the original property. And with respect to the welfare exemption case, the TRA office explained the co-administration of the welfare exemption and how to apply for an organizational clearance certificate from our agency with the appropriate fiscal year to match what they were seeking exemption on from the county assessor's office. For the disabled veterans exemption case, the TRA office coordinated with the assessor's office to expedite the claim processing so the taxpayer could receive exemption as soon as possible, since the supplemental tax bill had been recently issued. 3 of the cases involved general property taxation, and the TRA office assisted these taxpayers by providing information about California's property tax system and the limitation of Proposition 13. and that paying off a person's home doesn't eliminate property taxes. Another case pertained to disaster relief, and the TRA office helped the taxpayer understand why they received a property tax bill for a house that had unfortunately been destroyed in a fire. We explained that disaster relief is prorated and that taxpayers are responsible for payment of property taxes for the portion of the year that the house existed. So the remaining 3 cases in the valuation category concern new construction, assessment appeals, and an unsecured assessment received by a state assessee. The Taxpayer Rights Advocate Office assisted the taxpayers by explaining that requests from assessors for information on permitted work assist them in determining if the work results in assessable new construction and also the appropriate value for property tax purposes. Additionally, the Taxpayer Rights Advocate Office provided information on the appeals process and provided resources on our website for appeals information as well as valuation of comparable sales, and we provided resources to help the taxpayer come up with comparable sales. To provide some additional insight on the workings of the Taxpayer Rights Advocate Office with respect to the unsecured assessment, the Taxpayer Rights Advocate Office coordinated with the Assessor's Office to determine the reason for its unsecured assessment, for which the taxpayer received an unsecured tax bill for a location where the taxpayer leased the real property. After confirming that the taxpayer was the state assessee, the Taxpayer Rights Advocate Office analyzed the property tax bills issued to the taxpayer to determine which assessment should not have been issued. The confusion arose from the taxpayer receiving a secured tax bill for a location at least from another party, and because they had previously received and paid an unsecured tax bill. The secured tax bill was determined to be correct, since that is how state assessed property assessments are billed according to property tax law. The taxpayer essentially had filed a property statement with the assessor's office reporting the personal property at that location, even though the company had become state assessed the previous year. Ultimately, the assessor's office removed the assessment for the personal property at the lease location, and the tax collector canceled the penalties for unpaid taxes and processed a refund for the prior year's payment of taxes, which had been double assessed, one locally assessed and one state assessed, essentially. This concludes my update. I'm available if you have any questions.
Thank you. I see Vice Chair Schaefer's hand.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I just had a couple of comments. Ms. Thompson, you mentioned a 55 and over benefit at some point. What was that for?
I'm sorry.
Age 55.
Oh, well, that's for the base year value transfer for seniors.
Yeah. Has that always been 55 or, for decades, or is that adjusted periodically? I know there's changes going on. Social Security payments have gone from 65 down to 62. Maybe if it's been at 55 for 20, 30 years, maybe it should be 45 or 65. I'm not prepared to make a judgment on that, but I think we should be aware as decades go by that some of these years ought to be adjusted based on the fact that people are living a lot longer and retiring later. This is really, you're not a member of the legislature, but it's an issue I want you to be aware of.
Thank you. Yes, the age 55 is the age of 55 is something that's specified in the Constitution. It was previously for base year value transfers in Proposition 60 and 90, and most recently included in Proposition 19, which passed in November of 2020.
Okay, that seems pretty recent. I want to emphasize the importance of property owners being able to change their mailing address on all records relating to their property, because some people move every year or two, and if something's sent to an old address, it may not be forwarded. They may receive penalties for not responding to something they didn't hear about. And knowing that some people move every 12 to 24 months, it should be a rather easy thing to update their mailing address. And the lady, you made a reference to somebody's concerning having to pay taxes even though their home was burned down, and you said they have to pay taxes up while the house was still standing. They still have to pay taxes forever on the raw dirt. You know, that's a very important element of any valuation of property, is land plus improvements. So we can remind people that regardless of fire matters, the very valuable dirt on which the home existed and will be rebuilt someday is something that does never go away. And you and I both understand that. Thank you.
Exactly. Thank you. Yeah, it was because of the improvements, is that the tax bill identified for land, of course, which they expected, but also improvements. And that is a little bit confusing to taxpayers, especially if they've had the unfortunate experience of having their house burned out and then receive a tax bill with an improvement value. And so
I think you're doing a very good job. Thank you.
Thank you. I see a hand from Member Gaines. Or is that an old hand?
Yes, yeah, no, thanks, Chair Vasquez. I appreciate it. Now, this is an issue that goes back to item K3E, where I made the statement about not voting for particular items that were on the agenda with respect to the 2021 state assessed property roll. So I would like to clarify, and may need another vote if it's not clear, because I wanted to make sure I was voting for the roll with the exception of those 4 items on the agenda that I had mentioned. So
I thought you were, but we can double check.
That'd be great.
Is staff able to check that? I believe it was okay, but if we can get a staff recommend supporting that, we can move forward. Is Brenda, is somebody might be
Chairman
talking.
Vasquez and members, staff are drilling down on it at this moment. If you just give us a couple of moments and we'll get exactly what the correct next steps are. If you could just give us one moment, please.
Sure. Ms. Stowers, did you have a question about that or something different?
Well, 2 things. One, I want to thank Ms. Lisa Thomas for her report. She has really gone the extra yard the past couple of meetings, giving more information about the cases that her office has resolved. So I just wanted to acknowledge that and thank her for her efforts. Mm-hmm. And I appreciate Senator Member Gaines' comments, because I think clarification is needed on whether or not he was not participating on those items or not participating as a whole. And regardless of the outcome, please note that Controller Yee did vote. So hopefully we could just, if there's a confusion, we can correct his vote without requiring the controller to come back.
That's what I'm hoping for.
Deputy Controller Stowers, I think we're fine with that. I think what we need to do, and again, I appreciate you giving staff just a minute to clarify. I think it's an issue of how Member Gaines, we may need you just to restate it, but I don't think it changes the outcome of the vote. Again, just 1 second, please.
I just want to clarify that I was abstaining from those 4 items, but not the entire roll.
Good afternoon, Chairman Vasquez and members of the board. This is Henry Nancho, Chief Counsel. My apologies. I had a phone issue and I accidentally was disconnected, so I'm just rejoining now. We are checking into, we understand Member Gaines clarification, the challenge is typically the approval of the state assessed roll is one item and one vote. The individual items are not typically separated in that matter, so we are looking into it as we speak. If you can give us about 5 minutes, we're going to check into that.
This is Deputy Controller Stowers. Historically, when a member is not participating in the item, the clerk will read the motion to adopt staff recommendation with the noted non-participation of Gaines for the items that the member is not participating in. So hopefully you guys could check your historical record, and just the simple clarification is that Ms. Taylor should have just indicated that member Gaines was not participating in those items, but he was participating as a whole. This is not new. This is not rocket science.
And that's correct. And I think that was clearly stated in Member Gaines' comments. So I'm having staff double check, but given the fact that the controller is not present at this time, I'm assuming that we can go forward with the fact that that all members who are present at the time, with the exception of Member Gaines, voted for the item as a whole. Member Gaines was intended to vote for the item with the exception of those items that he specifically indicated he had a conflict with and was not participating in, but he is in support of the roll otherwise.
That's the way I understood it.
That's right.
And if that's an accurate statement, we can go ahead and go with that as part of the record.
Wonderful.
Appreciate
That's
it.
great. Thank you.
You comfortable with that, Member Gaines?
Absolutely.
Yeah, and Member Stowers, thanks for the clarification. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Ms. Taylor, did we check or did we have any written comments on this taxpayers advocate office report?
We do not.
Can we check with AT&T? Just
Certainly. AT&T moderator, can you let us know if there is anyone who wants to make a public comment on this matter? Each caller will have up to 3 minutes to speak. For the record, a caller may provide their name.
Certainly. If you'd like to make a comment, please press 10 at this time. And there are no comments queuing up at this point.
thank you. With that, and we don't need a motion. No, it doesn't seem on this one. If we can have Ms. Taylor, please call the next item.
The next item is M1, Public Policy Hearings, discussion on the implementation of Proposition 19, the Home Protection for Seniors, Severely Disabled, Families, and Victims of Wildfire or Natural Disasters Act of 2020. There are no planned staff reports or external speakers for this agenda item for this month's meeting. However, persons who wish to address the board on this topic as a public comment may do so. This matter will be presented by Chairman Vasquez.
Thank you, Ms. Taylor. Once again, this is a placeholder that we put on every agenda now, given the Prop 19. And if there's no comments or questions from the members, I will go ahead and open the public hearing piece of this and see if there's anybody on the line that wishes to speak on this. If we can, we don't have any written comments, I don't believe, right, Ms. Taylor?
We do not.
Can we just check with AT&T, see if anybody's on the line?
Yes, AT&T moderator, can you let us know if there's anyone who wants to make a public comment on this matter? Each caller will have up to 3 minutes to speak. For the record, a caller may provide their name.
And if you'd like to make a comment, please press 10 at this time. That's 10. And there are no comments at this point.
Thank you. And with that, unless I see a hand or any comments from the members, we will close this item and move on to the next item. Ms. Taylor.
The next item is N, public comment on matters not on the agenda. Persons who wish to address the Board of Equalization regarding items not on the agenda. Please note that the board cannot take action on items not on the agenda. However, the board can schedule issues raised by the public for consideration at future meetings.
Ms. Taylor, are we checking with, we don't have any written comments, right?
We do not. Would you like me to check with the AT&T moderator?
Please.
AT&T moderator, can you let us know if there is anyone who wants to make a public comment on this matter? Each caller will have up to 3 minutes to speak. For the record, a caller may provide their name.
Absolutely. If you'd like to make a comment at this time, please press 10. If you'd like to make a comment at this time, please press 10. And there are no one commenting at this point.
Thank you. Members, that pretty much concludes our items, our business. Let me just ask if any of the members have any final remarks of the day.
I'm sorry, Chairman Vasquez, this is Henry Nancho, Chief Counsel. Can I ask, I want to present something to the board. Specifically with regards to Member Gaines' vote on the state assessed role, to be technically accurate, what would be appropriate would be a motion to reopen the roll to allow Member Gaines to clearly vote, because I believe upon looking at the record, Ms. Taylor had recorded or mentioned verbally that his vote was recorded as not participating, as opposed to not participating to particular items. Reopening the vote would just allow Mr. Gaines to clarify his vote. It would not require a revote of the whole motion, assuming all the other members would keep their votes the same. In an abundance of caution, that would be the technically accurate way to handle the situation.
Sure, if the members are comfortable with that, I'm good with that. We can go ahead, let's reopen that item.
So it would be a motion to reopen
So
the
we
vote
need a-
for Member Gaines?
I will move that we I will move that we reopen the item to allow Member Gaines to clarify his vote. Is that specific enough?
Yes, that's perfect.
Okay. Do we need a second on that?
Yes, and a vote.
Do we have a second on that motion?
I second the motion to reopen the vote to allow Member Gaines to clarify his vote with the understanding that the other members' votes stand as cast.
Thank you. We have a second. And let's officially vote on that, Ms. Taylor.
Chairman Vasquez,
Aye.
Vice Chair Schaefer,
Aye.
Member Gaines,
Aye.
Member Cohen,
Aye.
Deputy Controller Stowers,
Aye.
So that's unanimous of those present. Now that we're the item, or Ms. Taylor, do you have to recall the item or can we just have Mr. Gaines state his vote?
I will defer to Mr. Nanjo.
Ms. Taylor would recall the item just for Member Gaines to clarify his vote.
Okay. Ms. Taylor,
Ms. Taylor, if you want to
recall the item?
The item was, the motion was to adopt staff recommendation on the allocations of the unitary values adopted by the board in May 2021. Member Gaines?
Yes, due to a financial interest, I will not be participating with respect to Pacific Corp 106 item, Sierra Pacific Power item 146, Kern River Gas Transmission Company item 188, and BNSF Railroad Company item 804.
And
But
you want to
as to the
state that
other
you're
items,
supporting the
Member
others, right?
Yeah, but I'm supporting all other items on the roll. I thought I did that with my earlier vote.
I thought so too, but just to be
Yeah.
clear.
Okay.
All right. Do we need anything else? Any more on that?
No. We'll show the record as Member Gaines voting aye in favor of everything except for those particular conflicts that he stated, which he is not participating on.
Right. Wonderful.
Thank you very much, members. I appreciate the clarification.
Thank you, board. I appreciate it.
Not a problem. With that, we don't need a vote on that. That's just done, right?
Correct.
All right. So now we can move back to our N item, Ms. Taylor.
I believe we already called for public comment, so our N item is complete.
That's what I was checking. So AT&T already said there was nobody on the line, correct?
Correct.
All right. So now I'll go back to the members. Was there any final remarks of the day from any of the members before we adjourn our meeting today? And I think I see a hand up from our Vice Chair Schaefer.
Chair Vasquez, I would just like to remind my colleagues that today is the 99th birthday of the father of so many of the sitcoms we've grown up with, Norman Lear. And we hope he makes it to 100 like our good friend May Lee.
Thank you. With that, members, I just wanted to thank Ms. Fleming and her staff for her dedication, especially on this Prop 19, as we move forward and with other business that we were able to take care of today. I know today was a little bit hectic as we were moving things around on the agenda a little bit, and I appreciated your patience on that. And with that, we can officially adjourn this meeting. And once again, I'd just like to adjourn in memory of the lives we're still losing due to this pandemic. While the numbers obviously have shrunk, but we're still seeing a little bit of a spike in some states more than others. Just remind people to be cognizant and be as careful as possible as we move forward. And hopefully soon, I know right now that it's being questioned whether in fact we'll be able to regroup in October in person ourselves. But keeping our fingers crossed, hopefully that will happen so we can hopefully come back to some normalcy, at least for the taxpayers and for ourselves as we move forward with many of these items and tasks that we have before us. But with that, we'll officially adjourn the meeting. Our next meeting is scheduled for August the 24th and 25th. And just a reminder that we'll have our annual BOE Taxpayers Bill of Rights hearing to be held on the 24th of August, which is next month. And with that, thank you all and be safe, and looking forward to hopefully seeing everybody soon. And for those that will be attending the Assessors Conference coming up, looking forward to seeing you folks next week. With that, we'll officially adjourn this meeting, and it's I have 2:39. Take care. Enjoy the day.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
It looks like it's everyone.
Thank you, members. Thank you, staff.